Ah, wonderful. Hello everyone, my name is Michael SK and welcome back to Umineko When They Cry episode 5. The last video was beautiful. It was a true battle of wits, and I love it when we have those battles of wits here in Umineko, and we've seen it so many times in so many different fashions. This one introducing a few new characters, and we're already going head to head with them with Battler. It was very fascinating and honestly really fun to follow. And as somebody in the previous video put in the comments, yeah, if you kind of just completely erase all the magic and witch, BS, then you really just have Battler, snuggling into bed, hopping out of bed, and then just straight dashing towards the window, jumping out the window, and somehow landing that 3 stories high. So there you go. Oh, and I guess, with Erica having her fit because, she's the detective and whatever. But yeah, very, very fascinating to consider that. Also, I do apologize for the audio issues in the previous video. They were worse than I thought that they were. Yeah, everything was a mess. I know what the issue was, and I even talked about it in the comments of the previous video. That is my bad. I really should have looked into that. Because I was moving to a whole new audio device with my new microphone. And I'm still tweaking my new microphone, so please let me know if I sound better, worse, the same. Honestly, if it's the same or better, that works for me. If it's worse, again, just let me know. But yeah, let's get right back to it. Damn, we're just straight making fun of her here.
あんたのその顔、潰して額縁に飾りたいくらいに最高に笑える顔だわ。私の分身が情けない無様。
I guess witches they just have to have these wicked laughs. Bathed in the sneers of Bernkastil, a being who was like a mother to her, Erica was so ashamed that it looked as though she would chew her lower lip to pieces.
この恨みは必ず後ろ宮バトラベアトリーチェ後ろ宮夏日
Uh-oh. We're losing her. And I think we lost her.
この謎は俺たちの謎だ。誰にも邪魔はさせねえぜ。ベアトリチェ。
And we're at the end of the chapter, aren't we? Yep. I had a feeling that we were near the end of the chapter. I wasn't really sure, but I also knew that I was having some volume issues. That was the main issue, was that moving to a whole new audio device, I forgot that I had configured or adjusted, if you will, the volume mixer in Windows to lower it as a master volume, because this doesn't have a master volume, so I needed something to help the bass line, and then I was able to tweak things further. So everything should be somewhat back to normal, hopefully. The only new thing should be the mic. In the Golden Land, the quiet rain just kept on falling. In the arbor sat the sad witch whose eyes had lost their glint, and Battler. Battler. Virgilia could also be seen there. She sat next to Beato, knitting quietly. Lambda Delta's game had passed the climax of the first twilight, and they were taking a short break. Gazing out at the golden rose garden soaked with rain, Battler considered the present, what was to come, and what had happened so far. To Battler, the act of thinking was itself a battle. Even with the game stopped and Beato unable to speak, he could still keep on fighting. Virgilia suddenly stopped her knitting. Battler noticed it too, because though none should have been able to visit this rose garden, she had noticed a silhouette approaching.
珍しい。ここへたどり着ける者がいるとは。
あいつは
Who is it? Oh, yeah, it's her. Okay, so whenever I was testing the audio, because I went back, I'm really happy that I made a new save after the previous session. But I went back to where we started the previous video, and I like skipped ahead to when she was doing her, negating all of Beatrice's, blue truth attempts. And I felt like that was a great way to like see how my volumes were working. Honestly, I just love that. I love her delivery on it. It's so fucking silly, and that was also our introduction to this character. That silhouette which walked amidst the quiet falling rain without so much as an umbrella was Dlanor.
素晴らしい迷路庭園です。バラを楽しむにはとても良い趣向です。
お前どうしてここに。
お久しぶりです、ミセス・ベアトリーチェ。はいえ、今はミセス・ワルギリアでしたか。
久しぶりですね、ドラノール。さあ、こちらへ。客人を雨に濡らすもてなしなど私たちは心得ませんよ。大丈夫、彼女は戦いに来たわけではありませんよ。
知り合いなのか。
天界の古い友人の一人です。ずいぶん懐かしいですね。
懐かしいです。ミセス・ワルギリアは天界学問にも造形が深くおられる。よく解釈をめぐって議論を戦わせたものです。
あなたとの数々の知的冒険は楽しかったですよ。またいつかご一緒したいものですね。
ええ、またいつかご一緒に必ず。あなたとはぜひまた戦いたいです。
They used the word fight, but it didn't sound like they meant anything unpleasant by it. And it sounded like something old chess rivals would say to each other. Unlike Beato, it seemed Virgilia always behaved properly and courteously. So she had many friends in various other worlds, including both heaven and the demon world. Surprisingly, Dlanor was one of them. Dlanor, who had crossed swords with me just a short while ago, ducked her head like someone taking shelter from a sudden rain and sat in the seat Virgilia pointed out like a guest.
紅茶に希望はありますか？
何でも。あなたの入れた紅茶ならどれでも絶品です。
Okay, now that we're like away from, that whole confrontation in the, in the game board, if you will, what is with Delanor's way of speaking? Like, I get it. It's supposed to be like a cutesy type, I think. It kind of reminds me of, I can't remember her name, but it's the pigtailed girl from Chunibyo, where she's always saying des, or I guess she says death. I don't remember what she says, but yeah, either way, it's like she always has to include like just the silly little, whatever at the end of what she's saying most of the time. And the font usage here in the text, it's like, that was supposed to be used for emphasis, but it's like emphasis is being used at the end of every sentence from Dlanor.
では、ダージリンを。バトラ君もベアトもおかわりはいりますか？
ああ、俺もベアトももらうぜ。な。
Fantastic response as usual, Beatrice. As usual, Beato didn't answer. Oh, that's right. I'm referring to Beato on the outside as Beato, and then the Beatrice in the game board I'm actually referring to as her name. That's how I'm trying to do it, but obviously I'm failing. As usual, Beato didn't answer, but if you quietly gave her a cup, she would sip it from time to time. There was still some black tea left in the cup, but it had already been chilled. So Battler asked for a refill for Beato as well.
お噂には聞いておりました。残虐で知られた無限の魔女ベアトリーチェもこうなっては寂しいものです。
こいつはもうゲームには参加してねえよ。ゲーム版のこいつを操ってるのはラムダデルタだ。
存じております。ですが本来のこの世界の主です。そしてあなたは その主に招かれた正当な客人です。ですからこうしてご挨拶に参じました。
On the game board, Beato and I met Dlanor. But those were the game pieces of those witches. They weren't Beato and me ourselves.
だからわざわざここまでバトラ君とベアトに挨拶に来てくれたのですか。相変わらず律儀な子ですね。
私の流儀です。はじめまして、ミスター・バトラー、ドラノール・エノックスと申します。
The way that she says Mr. and Mrs. I love that. I don't know, it's
敵対する役で
cute.
はありますが、よろしくお願いいたします。
おう、後宮バトラだ。よろしく頼むぜ。
はじめまして、ミス・ベアトリーチェ、ドラノール・エノックスと申します。
ベアト、お前に挨拶してるぜ。歓迎するとさ。
No, she doesn't.
ありがとうございます、ミス・ベアトリーチェ。
The witch and the Inquisitor of Heresy, whose job it was to hunt witches, greeted each other around a tea table surrounded by the aroma of black tea. It was a strange sight. Virgilia made gold butterflies sprout from the palms of her hands and transformed them into a teapot and a can of tea leaves. It was very witch-like, or a very witch-like way to make tea. Of course, she actually was a witch, so that scene wasn't particularly bizarre in itself. Though I was a bit concerned about whether Dlanor, the Inquisitor of Heresy, could watch such a spectacle.
ご安心を。私は振る舞われる紅茶の立て方に口を挟むほど不粋ではありません。
魔法で紅茶を入れているのにか。
物陰に紅茶の道具があり、私たちに隠れてミセス・バルギリアが紅茶を入れている。それを魔法で入れたと私たちが解釈判断し、物語に記した。
Damn, she is quick to it.
ノックス第9条でも認められる解釈です。
おやおや、9条の解釈は大法院でもタブー視されるほどのデリケートな問題のはず。私的発言とはいえ、首席異端審問官の発言と知られれば首が飛ぶかもしれませんよ。
私がどのような解釈を記そうとも、ミセスの紅茶の味を何ら偽ることにはなりません。ですから私はその立て方を気にすることはないのです。
ほう。
Though she looked cold, she was a surprisingly tactful person. If Dlanor were to deny that the black tea had been prepared with magic, this magic would surely be crushed in an instant. However, the possibility had been presented that a tea set existed and had been used to make the tea normally. So the fact that Virgilia had made tea was, in the end, undisputed.
結果を闇に閉ざす魔法は邪悪です。私たちは許さない。しかし家庭を包む魔法は邪悪とは限りません。私の敵は邪悪であって魔法そのものではないのです。
なるほどな。紅茶のもてなしが出てくることが重要なんであって、その立て方についてどうこう突っ込まないのが客の礼儀ってわけか。
That's right. When someone makes tea for you, it's common courtesy to be grateful. There's nothing elegant about pushing your way into the kitchen and criticizing how they brew it. Well, yeah.
台所は客人を招く場所ではありません。そしてそこよりの配膳はもてなしの心で美しく飾られるべきです。どうぞ。暑いですよ。
ありがとうです。砂糖とミルクも欲しいです。
Of course you would.
まだストレートでは飲めませんか。
子供なので甘くないとダメです。
魔法ってのも優しい嘘なのか。
嘘というと聞こえが悪いですね。日本語で表現する場合は就職と呼んだ方がよりふさわしいでしょう。
I was just gonna say interpretation.
子供に飴を与えるとき、ポケットの中でぐしゃぐしゃになったのを出して与えるのと、素敵な手品を見せてそこから飴を出して与えたのでは、与える感情が全く違うはずです。
そりゃ手品でポンと飴を出された方がこじゃれてていいよな。
違います。 飴を与えるという結果に対し、より美しく楽しい就職を与えたことに意味があるのです。
マリアちゃんに飴をあげるとき、ポケットから出して与えるのと、普段から良い子にしていたから妖精さんが持ってきてくれたと言ってこっそりポケットに忍ばせるのは全く違うという意味ですよ。
それを全員のアリバイを調べて、誰がポケットに忍ばせたのか調べ上げて特定するのは、私は無粋なことと思っています。飴を受け取り少女が喜んだという結果こそが重要です。そして少女を喜ばせるために就職されたことが意味あることなのです。
意外だな。魔法と名がつけば全否定みたいな感じで登場しやがったの。
異端審問官としてはそう振る舞います。職務ですので。ですが職務を離れている時はそこまで冷酷になりたくありません。
勤務中は市場は持ち込まないってわけか。うん、できるやつだな。
異端審問官として魔女を狩るのは仕事です。しかし一個人としては魔女を憐れんでいます。しかし異端審問官としては無慈悲に断罪します。結果において私が魔女たちを処刑するのに変わりはない。私の憐れみなど所詮は無駄な就職に過ぎません。あってもなくても何も変わらないならなくてもいい。
Interesting.
そんなことはありませんよ。結果が同じでも心が違えば大きく意味が異なることもあります。あなたの母が焼いたクッキーは優れたパティシエが作るクッキーよりきっと美味しかったはず。
Okay, that's definitely a perspective thing.
それは心が込められていることを知っているからですよ。
そうだな。結果が同じに見えても真心ってやつがあるかないかで。
そうでしょうか。私の心などあってもなくても何の意味もない。
Delanor's gaze fell to her cup a little sadly.
なことはね、今の話を聞いて俺はお前の見方を少し変えたぞ。だから心が無意味なんてことは絶対にねえ。
Virgilia was a little surprised to hear the words that she should have said coming from Battler's mouth. After all, understanding the heart is the first step towards finding the essence of magic. By now, perhaps Battler has unconsciously started to understand, bit by bit, the essence of Beato, the essence of witches, and the very first essence of all magic. Whether you want to become a witch or vanquish them, the very first step is learning about magic. Virgilia was sure that she had felt this faint change within Battler.
先ほどの戦いではありがとうございました。
I mean, that wasn't Battler here.
最後の最後に慈悲を与えてくれたこと感謝いたします。
俺は俺じゃねえぜ。ラムダデルタが操ってたんだ。
I joined in on the 5th game partway through. I still haven't participated at this point in time. So until I do join in, the peace me is probably being controlled by Brinkastil or Lambda Delta.
あいつらどういう気まぐれだろうな。妙にかっこよくしてくれやがって。あれじゃまるで俺がベアトを助けに来たナイト様みてえじゃないか。
ラムダデルタ教は魔女と人間のそれぞれが均衡しドローゲームとなることを望んでいます。エリカの登場により天秤が人間側に大きく傾いたのでベアトに加担するように物語を操ったのでしょう。
それは知っています。しかしコマはできないことはできない。そして本来の性格にふさわしい行為を得意とする。だからあれは確かにあなたのバトラの成し得たことです。だからあなたに感謝するのです。
何もしてねえのに褒められるってのは妙な気分だな。
No, but it's a capability that you possess.
ゲームがもう少し進めば俺の駒も俺が操るようになるだろうよ。その時にも優しく手加減するかはわからねえぜ。
私も同じです。次に太刀を交える時は遅れは取りません。
上等だ。相手してやるぜ。全力で来い。
約束します。全力です。
Dlanor, huh? I thought that she was an emotionless killer doll without a heart, but maybe she actually is pretty approachable. Though, of course, neither of us will show any mercy when fighting on the game board. Ain't that the truth? For a while, we gazed at the rain-drenched rose garden as we quietly enjoyed our tea. It is interesting how we're going about everything here in this story.
一つ謝らねばなりません。
But what is more interesting is the fact that Battler is he's a freaking menace in a weird way. He is indeed beginning to like learn more about how magic works, how these arguments have to be, I guess fought, I guess you could say. And that is reflecting onto the game board. The Battler we see sure is being controlled by somebody else at this point, but I mean, this is all stuff that we can kind of expect from Battler, just in a really weird way. He misses some things, but gets the things that we would never, ever expect. It's always the unexpected. With a sudden sigh, Dlanor muttered something.
何がだ？さっきの戦いのことなら、もうノーサイドだぜ。お互い、全力で戦ったろ。勝ち負けは時の運だぜ。
いいえ、時の運ではありません。それに任せられなかったから、私は謝罪に訪れたのです。
何の話だ？
勝ちを譲ったということですね。
Virgilia spoke softly without hesitating in her knitting.
はい。ミスター・バトラー。
ミスターはかゆいぜ。
I like it.
バトラでいい。
バトラー、謝罪します。私たちは全力ではありませんでした。
分かっていますよ。金蔵は全ゲーム開始時に死亡している。すでにベアトによって語られている真実です。あの戦いはバトラ君には引き分けに持ち込めれば上々。勝ち目は絶対にないはずの戦いでした。
That is the weird part, you know? The argument of where is Kinzo, you're arguing that, he has been here or I did speak with him or whatever. I mean, the thing is that no, he never was there. We were arguing over the possibility, and that's it. But we all knew that Natsuki was talking out of her ass from the get-go, and Battler decided to, go ahead and support her. The thing is that, yeah, sure, if Kinzo was alive, Kinzo probably could have done all those things. Well, maybe besides the, living after the, falling from 3 stories high, but you get what I mean. It was very confusing and very epic, don't get me wrong. It was a really cool showdown in the previous video, but in a way, it was an argument for nothing.
そうだな。
In the, grand scheme of things, but in that moment, it was important.
一言そう言われちまえば、それで終わっちまう戦いだった。なぜ、その赤を使わなかった？まさか、ステイルメイトだからとでも言うのか？
ノックス第2条探偵方法に超自然能力の使用を禁ず。その赤き真実を私たちは直接使うことができません。しかし窓が降雨後に開かれたことはないという私は窓を守っていたコーネリアに持たせていました。
ドーン。そいつでチェックメイトだ。どうしてあの姉ちゃんがその切り札を切らなかった？
これは金形。我が赤が破れる道理はなし。そなたの望み叶うことなしと知りたまえ。
And though she had fought calmly up until that point, she quickly got flustered when I dashed forwards. I thought she had been frightened by my sudden attack, but the truth was different. Even though she held a trump card that could completely repel me, she suddenly became unable to use it and hesitated.
わかりません。突然あの瞬間に切り札の使用が禁じられたのです。
Forbidden?
それを失った時点であなたの勝利は約束されました。
ゲームマスターラムダデルタ教の干渉でしょう。
I wonder. And I really gotta like print out all of Nox's rules or some shit, but I wonder. There probably was no information, nothing in the story that could have told us that that window was never opened. And maybe that was the restriction there, similarly to how, well, the deal with Kinzo being dead. I mean, the game board is the story that is of the family conference. So everybody was under the impression that Kinzo was alive. So we had to roll with that. We couldn't use that red truth.
あいつめ、結局あの戦いは全てラムダデルタの手のひらでの茶番ってわけかよ。
Everything in a way is a farce in the palm of Lambda Delta's hand.
俺たちはあいつの筋書き通りにお芝居をやらされたってわけだ。
不愉快とは思います。しかし全力で来いとおっしゃられたバトラにそれを打ち明けぬわけにはいきませんでした。許してください。
それでもあなたは切り札を失っても残されたカードで全力で戦いましたよ。あなたを非難など誰にできるでしょう。
そうだな。むしろ余計なことをしやがってと。
金像が存在しないのはすでに確定事項のはず。ラムダデルダ教もベルンカステル教もそれをよくご存知のはずです。なのに2人とも金像が存在する余地を残してゲームを進めています。まるで2人で結託して金像を否定させないかのようです。
It kind of clouds things over a bit.
じい様をわざと逃がしたと。
はい。何かの意図があるに違いありません。
確かに少し。ラムダデルタ教とベルンカステル教は魔女が優勢にならない限り対立する関係にあるはず。
Okay, well, here's the thing. There's two events going on here. The main event, which is the killings, and then the side event, which is the fact that Kinzo's not really around, and we have people covering for him. Even so, these killings are going on. They are still willing to go through all of this, even so Kinzo's not around. This huge lie they're willing to continue to stand up for, and I wonder for how long. Maybe to the very end. I'm very surprised at that too.
現在の流れでは2人が結託することは考えがたいのですが。
私には
But we've also seen that in previous
何か邪悪な目
episodes.
的があるように思えてなりません。
There have always been people trying to cover up for Kinzo still being alive. And Beatrice herself, or Beato, has been the one also showing us that, hey, Kinzo's alive. That perspective. Completely messing with us. We've always had something in the way shielding us from the truth of what's actually going on.
それをお伝えしたくて私はここまで参りました。
お前そんなことのためにわざわざここまで来てくれたのか。
はい。ですので私はもう用事を終えました。これにて失礼しようと思います。ゲームも時期に再開するでしょう。
Oh,
エ
lovely.
リカと今後のゲームを打ち合わせねばなりませんので。
Dlanor gulped down the last of her black tea and stood up.
次は第二の番の戦いにて、そこにて私は再び無慈悲の太刀を振り上げるでしょう。ですからどうかバトラも私に慈悲などかけぬように。
Another battle of
分かって
wits.
るぜ。
Let's get
手
it.
加減なんかしたらこっちの頭が叩き割られちまうぜ。
ゲーム版での私はベルンカステル教の駒フルドエリカの手先も同然です。これからも敵として何度も立ちはだかるでしょう。しかし私の心は本来中立です。
The thing is that we should be more on her side. It's just that here in the story, Battler's trying to stick up for his family a little bit, I guess you could argue.
いや、忘れてください。そんなことはあなたと私の関係においては何の意味もない。
あるぜ。強敵であることは間違いないが、あんたをムカつきはしなくなった。エリカのやつは最高にムカつくがな。
よかった。私もフルドエリカにはムカついています。
All right. Delanor's expression finally softened slightly. At the very last moment, it felt as though we finally understood each other.
フルドエリカはとても邪悪な存在です。先ほどの敗北で面目を潰され、復讐心に燃えたぎっています。何を企んでいるのか、私にもわかりません。
I'm actually really excited to see where things are going to go with her character.
ですが、ろくなことのわけがない。 注意してください。
ベルンカステルの困った時点で気を許す気はないぞ。
Dlanor nodded as though satisfied, left the overhang of the harbor, and walked into the rain.
あのような邪悪の手先を務めることになろうとは、どうして私はこの世界に呼ばれたのか。
Dlanor let out a small sigh. Pieces can do nothing except fulfill the function they have been given. And that function is given to them by the one who controls them. She probably can't disobey her own player, Bernkastel.
呼んだのはベルンカステル教かもしれない。しかしこの世界に受け入れたのはベアトです。この子が望まなければあなたは迷路庭園を抜けここへは至れなかったのだからね、ベアト。
Fantastic response as always.
ミス・ベアトリーチェ、あなたは私に何を求められるのか。邪悪の手先としての私があなたの何かに答えられるならば幸いなのですが。
She spoke to Beato, but of course there was no response. After bowing once more in thanks for the black tea, Dlanor disappeared off into the rainy rose garden.
この黄金鏡にはベアトが望まない限り誰もたどり着けないのか。
ええ、ドラノールをここへ呼んだのはこの子なのですよ。
ベアトがあいつをここへ呼び俺に会わせたのか。
However, I know of a person who reached this place despite Beato's wishes. It's Ange. In the last game, Ange reached this place by herself, even though she was an uninvited guest. Was that also something Beato wished for?
ここに私がいて、ベアトがいることも、そしてドラノールが招かれたことも、すべてはこの子が望んだことなのです。ドラノールとあなたが過ごしたこのささやかな紅茶の時間さえも。
ベアト、俺はあいつから何を知れと言うんだ。それがお前の心臓を探し出し安らかに眠らせることと関係があるのか。
Dlanor A. Nox, the natural enemy of witches, an inquisitor of heresy, a vanguard of mystery who denies fantasy. Is she here to help by gouging out your heart and choking the life out of you? I don't know. Honestly, this stuff is just... it's a bit hard to follow in a
立っ
way.
てください。片足で。
Cornelia slowly got up and stood on one leg, as she had been ordered. Her hands were clasped behind her back, because she had been ordered to do so. Then with a thump, Erica pushed her from behind with both hands. Cornelia landed on the floor face first with a thud. What's going on here?
立ってください。片足で。
Cornelia rose shakily. Then once again she stood on one leg as she had been ordered. She had been ordered not to hold her ground, so she had fallen on her face over and over again. She had barely managed to protect her nose, and after smashing against the floor so many times, her face was bright red. She wasn't shedding any tears. No, she couldn't shed them, because she was forbidden to even do that.
立ってください。片足で。
Why is this happening?
立ってください。片足で。
It just keeps on going. Okay. But why? Erica repeated this falling torture over and over again. At times like this, Erica hated counting things. So she decided that once she ran out of fingers to count the number of times, she would just repeat it until she lost interest. However, Erica's main redeeming feature was that she never lost interest in anything. So the torture continued on and on. Erica didn't know why Cornelia had been unable to fully protect the window, so the whole time since then, she had placed all the blame of her loss on her.
近景謹んで申し上げ奉るコーネリアの咎を許したまえ。すでに彼女の咎のみそぎには十分なりや。ああ、そうですか。ではここからはあなたが代わってください。ガートルードに咎はなきなりや。ガートルード、立ってください。片足で、両手は後ろで組むように。
Gertrude followed the order and clasped her hands behind her back, standing on one leg.
耐えて踏みとどまってはダメですよ。膝を折ることも許しません。涙をこぼすことも許しませんから、いいですね。御意。ガートルード。
Erica made a show of walking behind Gertrude. She even enjoyed making her wonder when she would push. At that time, Gertrude and Cornelia burst with a bright light and disappeared, because Dlanor, who must have returned at some point, had sent them back to the heavens for the time being. Erica, who had her fun spoiled, gave Dlanor an openly malicious look.
Miss Erika, 我が部下の咎は上司の私が背負います。どうか部下をお許しください。
ノーサンキューです。お仕置きってのは苦痛を与えるから意味があるんです。傷一つつかない無痛覚の人形女など面白くもなんともありません。
Okay. Erica slowly grabbed hold of the back of Delanor's hair, tugging unrelentingly. Delanor's neck tilted upwards, creaking.
傷はつきませんが、傷つきはします。
あんたに傷つく心なんてあるわけもないです。魔女狩り殺人人形の分際で私に口答えする気ですか。大ベルンカステル教の使者にして分身のこの私に。
いいえ。
あんたらが使えないから私がベルンカステル教にお叱りを受けるんです。二度と無様な真似は見せないでください。いいですね。
The hair that she had grabbed was stretched back as far as it would go, along with more creaking. This didn't cause Dlanor any physical pain, but she could clearly feel Erica's ill will.
失礼しました。お許しください。
クズが。
With a sound like a bowstring being cut, several of Delanor's hairs were pulled out. Then Erica waved her hand about as though trying to brush off something dirty that had gotten stuck to it.
まあいいです。これで終わりにします。ようやく私の怒りも収まり、灰色の脳細胞がうずいてきましたから、あの使えない二人を呼び戻して現場の再構築をしてください。推理ゲームを始めましょう。
わかりました。ガートルード、コーネリア。
よい。
The two of them reappeared behind Dlanor and reconstructed the crime scene for Erica, the one who had just been tormenting them.
金蔵の失踪なんて第一の番のおまけでしかありません。さあ、第一の番の検証を始めましょう。
Oh, fun. Hell yeah.
とその前に、実は私たちは殺人事件の発生以前から一つの謎を突きつけられていることをご存知ですか？
はい。昨夜の24時の何者かのノックによって現れた片翼の鷲の刻まれた手紙ですね。
そうです。一見物語はその瞬間に人間の誰にも不可能であったと語り、未知の魔女が存在しているかのような幻想を作り出しています。まずはこの魔女幻想を叩き潰すことから始めましょう。手紙が届けられた昨晩の食堂の状況から確認していきます。
了解です。ガートルード、コーネリア、昨晩の食堂の親族会議を再構築。
よい。
Well, this ought to be fun. But no, I mean, that is a valid thing that we need to, first look back on was, yeah, there was the knock. There was the phone call that Natsuhi received, but I actually predicted that she probably never even got a phone call. But if you have multiple people saying that, like, hey, there was a knock at the door and we received a letter, yeah, things are things are a little bit more believable on that front, but also our perspective has been skewed a little bit here. Could we say that Genji ever really did tell Natsuhi those times that she had a phone call? Did Natsuhi really have a phone call at all? You know, did she really ever freak out? What is the reason for her, you know, suspicious behavior now, if not just for, you know, trying to hide Kinzo or the existence of Kinzo, trying to keep that, I guess, an alive thing? I don't know. But I'm going to end it there in case, you know, there's still issues with the overall audio mixing of this video. I can at least look into it without it being over an hour long, and then I regret it later. So we'll wrap it up there, and then next time we'll get right back to it. But thank you all for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully, again, I sound okay. The game sounds okay. Hopefully everything is okay. But I'll continue to make adjustments on my end, and I won't bring it up anymore, but hopefully I'm able to figure something out with my audio, and all will be okay. But thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take it easy.